tous, bienvenue à cette conférence de presse de Wish, Asha et la Bonne Étoile. Bien sûr, c'est le film événement des fêtes de fin d'année des studios d'animation Walt Disney qui sortira en salle le 29 novembre et dès le 22 novembre en exclusivité au Grand Rex, précédé de la Féerie des Eaux. C'est un vrai Disney de Noël, vous l'avez vu tout à l'heure, et c'est également l'ultime chapitre de la célébration du 100e anniversaire de Disney, un hommage à l'héritage et à l'impact culturel des films d'animation légendaires. Aujourd'hui, nous avons la chance d'avoir l'équipe du film avec nous pour cette conférence de presse. Donc, merci de les accueillir avec moi, s'il vous plaît. Would you please welcome with me les réalisateurs Chris Buck and Fawn Veerasunthorn et le producteur, producer Peter Del Vecho. So as I explained to the journalists earlier, we'll do this conversation in English. If they have questions in French, I'll translate them to you, and you can, of course, answer in English, unless you're fluent in French, which you might be. Feel free. But let me just start with kind of a global question for all three of you. How does it feel to be behind Disney's 100th anniversary film? How does that make you feel?
Well, I mean, certainly the fact we're working at Disney Animation at this particular moment in time, I don't think gets lost on any of us, and certainly the responsibility we feel. But very quickly, that turned to a feeling of joy working on this film, because we're all Disney fans ourselves, so the fact that we're here able to share this film at this particular moment in time is very special.
Yeah, and I would say that I grew up with Disney films, right? And Disney films for me bring the sense of wonder, of imagination. It inspired me to draw, and to be here at this moment, I hope to put all those feelings into this film and that the audience feel that.
Chris, how about for you?
For me, I started at the studio almost 50 years ago,
Wow.
half of that anniversary. And so, and I trained under Walt's 9 Old Men. And so they were really handing my generation the baton. And so I feel it's a great honor and a responsibility so to keep that tradition alive, not only what they taught us technically, but what they taught us about Walt's sense of storytelling.
And what's so great too is when you watch the movie, the visual style is very innovative, but it's also very reminiscent of some of those very early studio films. We were talking earlier with one of the journalists, there's reflections of Snow White, you feel Pinocchio in there. How much did those films specifically inspire you? Ma question c'est sur les influences en fait des autres films Disney auparavant et l'influence qu'ils avaient sur ce film.
I guess I can start. So, knowing that we were doing the 100th anniversary film, we wanted to pay homage to our legacy, but also then embrace the technology that we have today. So we did look back. We looked back at Snow White, we looked back at Pinocchio, we looked back at the watercolor illustrations that they had for the backgrounds, and to us it felt like a storybook. So the exciting thing to us was then you combine that with the CG technology and the camera work that we can do. So you're able to actually go into that storybook. They're like moving illustrations. So that was a thrill for us to be able to do.
Fawn and Peter, you want to add on to that?
Well, just that we weren't quite sure how we were going to, the visual style was very clear from the beginning what we were trying to do, but to actually step into that world required the artist, passion from our own artists, but also technology to develop it, much like the story had to develop. During the making of the movie, so did the technology in order to make it come true.
Yeah, and this style played best on the big screen. That's a part of the excitement. We decided to go with the CinemaScope 2:5:5 aspect ratio, which was last seen in Sleeping Beauty. So it's been a while, and we did a test run at the studio on the sweeping shot that explored multiplane camera, but in our style, and to see what that would look like, and the test blew us away and gave us hope that this would look so gorgeous in the theater.
Yeah.
But then to Peter's point, it's like, as the producer, it's like, okay, that's fine. The test is great. How do we do that for 90 minutes?
And the answer?
We found a way.
Est-ce que vous avez vos questions? Voilà, alors peut-être juste ici.
Une question légère d'abord, c'est s'ils devaient aller sur une île déserte, quel serait leur Disney qu'ils prendraient? Et une question plus grave, pour un film de Noël, ils ont choisi de traiter de l'utilisation de la sécurité, au nom de la sécurité, ce qu'un tyran pourrait faire. Est-ce qu'ils peuvent en parler?
Okay, so it's a two-part question. The first one is if you could go to a desert island and only bring one Disney film, which one would you bring and why? And the second is a bit more of a serious question. This is a Christmas movie for Disney, a holiday movie, and yet she's saying the themes are quite serious, the theme of security and doing anything it takes to protect people. Can you speak a little bit about the choice of that theme, which is quite serious for a Disney film? So maybe start with the lighter one first. So the film you would take, Peter.
Moana, because maybe she could help get me off the island.
Good. Vous avez compris Moana, elle va aider à sortir de l'île. How about for you, Fawn?
I think I'll bring Frozen. A little bit of a, there's a snowman who help me with anything. There's a lot of magic and wonder.
And Chris?
I think I would bring Jungle Book because I just love all the songs in it. It just makes me happy. Like a serious question.
More serious one.
We made this movie, with our protagonist. She's so great. She's a character that she has a wish, but it's a wish for everyone, not just for herself. And she really will stop at nothing to make that wish come true. So we love that. She was inspired also by Walt's story, and that Walt, when he first made Snow White, it was such a hard struggle just to get people to believe, in this full-length animated feature, that anybody would want to see it. So we went back actually to Walt's story for that too, for Asha, the character of Asha. So I don't know, when it comes to this time and everything, I think Walt inspired us. Walt always gave us hope. His movies did, hope and inspiration, and I think that's especially needed right now.
Ok, une autre question? Qui a le microphone? Juste ici.
Hi, the movie was great, so thanks. Maybe I'm getting a little older and more cynical, but aside from Star, my favorite character was Magnifico. So, can you tell us a little bit more about how you conceived it, and how did Chris Pine come into fold, and did he change anything on the character? How much did he put of himself inside the character? Thanks.
It's been our passion to bring back the classic Disney villain, me and Chris. But we did think about how do we give it a modern twist, right? Usually when you see the Disney villain, they come on fully formed as a villain character. In this film, we were excited with the idea that we want to bring someone in who's charming, who's powerful. You buy that people of Rosas really love him. And then we see an evolution of someone who descends into that villainy. And Chris Pine has such wide range as an actor. He's a great actor. He can be charming, he can be funny, he can be scary, and he dove into that character. There's a lot of collaboration. So it was not, here's a script and we recorded him and that was it. He asked us a lot of questions. And sometimes we were like, that's a great question. We do not have an answer to that. So we would think more deeply about that. So he helped shape this character with us.
The fun stuff we had recording Chris was when he did speaking of the villain, you love the villain, when he went into the really villainous part, and he was really intense, and he would do one take after another, getting more intense and more intense and more intense, and we're behind the glass. And so as he's getting more intense, we're sort of backing up, further away from the glass. And then he would finish, he would do the whole thing, and then he would just kind of look at us, he goes, how was that? Very sweetly, it was great. We had a blast.
Okay, une autre question?
Hi, thank you for the movie, I really loved it. I have a question about Asha and how she was constructed as a princess, because it felt, as a viewer, that she was inspired at the same time by the 2010 princesses like Rapunzel or Elsa, and at the same time by the 90s princesses like Ariel, for example. And it felt really great also as a young woman to feel like we were back to this kind of mix of the liberation of the princesses we had in the 90s and also the one we had in the 2010.
We love our princesses. Like you, I grew up with the 90s Disney musical films, right? So we were inspired by those characters in terms of determinations they have, how they know what they wanted and they weren't afraid to go after those dreams. So we see all of that within Asha. Now Asha is someone who grew up in this magical town with the king and grand witches himself magically, but one day she discovered this difficult truth and we were interested in seeing how she would react to that. You know, you're presented with an opportunity to do way more than you thought you could. We were really, even Ariana says she feels like she has to step out of her comfort zone to play this role, and that was exactly what this character of Asha showed the audience of, you know, what happened when your courage had made you put the wish out into the sky and wondrous things can happen. And Ariana brings such joy and energy and someone who's not afraid to be themselves on screen in life. She say what she wants and we really love that about Asha as well.
Ok, une autre question? Voilà.
Merci, bonjour. Comment vous avez aussi intégré tous les clins d'œil aux précédents films Disney? Il y en a des assez visibles, je pense notamment au personnage qui ressemble un peu à Peter Pan à la fin du film. Et est-ce qu'il y a aussi des clins d'œil plus invisibles, plutôt pour les experts de l'animation, avec des cadrages et ce genre de choses?
Okay. So he's saying he loves the references that are slipped in throughout the movie of previous Disney films and mentioning Peter Pan, which is one of the more obvious ones. But he's saying, can you tell him a bit more about those, as well as perhaps the ones that your average viewer wouldn't notice? Was there anything in the framing, something kind of more obscure? Yeah, so tell us about those.
So what we worked on first was making sure that the story was solid, and you know that took us a little while. And then after we started putting sequences in production, that's when sort of the fun started, and we started layering in all these nods to our legacy. So some we had our own, some, but most of them were from the artists. And the artists are like, I'd love to see this, I'd love to see this, I'd love to see this. Some are pretty obvious in the movie, like the one you mentioned. There are some that are, okay, I'll mention one that I almost dare people to find.
This is hard level.
This is, yeah, so they did it as a retreat to me. I was the supervising animator on Grandmother Willow in Pocahontas. So Grandmother Willow is in one of the forest shots. I can't tell you which one. Even if I could, I probably I couldn't remember. But she's in the background somewhere. You can see the face. You can see everything, the tree and everything. But that's a very hidden one, and congratulations if you find it.
Peter and Fawn, do you have a favorite of the others? One you could mention?
You know, there's so many. What I liked is most of it came from an emotional place and part of the story. So everything wanted to be integral to the story we were telling. But then, as Chris said, there's many hidden. One of the obvious ones is the star character. If you look at the face, you'll see sort of the heart-shaped mask. And if you look at Mickey Mouse, it's very similar.
For me, the film started with the logo of Walt Disney Productions, and we had a lot of discussion about what that would look like, and I'm so glad that we picked, that was the same logo as what was in Snow White. I thought what a wonderful way to welcome the audience into this film that celebrated, you know, the film that started it all.
Une autre question?
Bonjour. Est-ce que vous connaissiez les stars enfin les comédiens français qui doublent, comme par exemple Adjani et puis Lambert Wilson?
Just a quick question on the French voices. Do you know, are you familiar with Isabelle Adjani, Lambert Wilson, Gérard Darmon, the other actors who are in the French version?
Well, we just met them.
We just had lunch.
We just had lunch. They were just charming and wonderful, and it was great to talk to them. They had a blast doing these characters. I mean, how can you not? Playing Asha and Valentino and then Magnifico, of course. So
And of course, we're really honored that they really took the part seriously, and they really represented the characters so well, and hopefully we'll get to see some of it tonight.
Oui, juste ici.
So, well, I just had a blank. Yeah, more on the technical side. Could you explain how you came up with this blend of 3D and a kind of pastel look?
So the look, again, honoring our legacy in today's world, the technology that we have, we look back at Snow White and Pinocchio for that watercolor visual style, and again, it felt like a storybook to us. And so, can we combine that with the CG medium, and could we do something where we actually feel like you're walking into the storybook? And so that was the goal. We just had a great time doing it. And the other thing was then to also match the characters fit in that world too. So sometimes you'll see lines on the characters, which evokes that hand-drawn feel. And it wasn't easy, because if you just let the computer do the lines, it would be too busy. The computer just gives you too much. It goes too realistic. So you had the artistic eye of our artists deciding which lines would be there and which lines would not. Just like when I was a hand-drawn animator, same thing. The trick is learning which lines not to use to make it appealing. So those are some of the challenges that we had.
I know the team did a lot of research, not just on the Walt Disney films we were talking about, but also on Walt Disney himself. What things did you learn that maybe surprised you or that were incorporated into Wish? Peter?
We did not know, or I did not know, that he dressed up the animals in the farm in clothes and
when he was a kid.
When he was a kid.
And at least I didn't know that he had basically a wishing tree in his backyard. That obviously we put the wishing tree in our movie as part of an homage to that.
Une autre question?
Je voulais juste compléter la question de mon collègue à l'instant, savoir si sur la technologie qui a été investie dans Wish, qui est très spéciale, si il compte l'utiliser dans d'autres productions futures.
Okay, he's just kind of backing off of that previous question about the technology, the things that were developed for Wish. Do you think you'll use that in the future? Are you already thinking of how you can use it in the future for new films?
What I love about working in the studio is it's really limited only to the imagination of the artist, but we did many shorts, Paper Man, Far From the Tree, Feast, all which had techniques which led us on the way to this movie. The techniques we're using in this movie, they're exploring for some other movies that are currently in development. So, we tend to build on our experience on each film.
Bonjour, merci pour le film qui est excellent. Je voulais savoir comment vous avez travaillé pour intégrer les chansons et les tableaux dans le film, et aussi comment ça a été de gérer la pression d'un film qui fête quand même les 100 ans de Disney.
So thank you for the film, we found it really excellent. He's asking more specifically about the music, the songs, how you worked with them and fitting them into the film, and how did you manage the pressure, we were talking about this earlier, of doing the 100th anniversary film?
No pressure.
No pressure, okay.
It's only 100 years.
Was there any pressure? Did you acknowledge that pressure? I mean...
Well, I think we felt the pressure right from the beginning, but as the story developed, it sort of took on a life of its own, and then it turned from pressure into a joyous experience, because everybody working on the film is a Disney fan, and we all wanted to contribute and do our best.
Yeah, and that includes Julia Michaels, who's a songwriter on this film. She's a huge fan of Disney. She calls herself Disney nerd. So she understands the classic sound of what Disney music, brings, and she also brings in her contemporary songwriting experience. The combination of that has been the theme throughout this film, right? The past and the future, and Julia really embodies that with her songs in Wish.
Right, because you can really hear that in the music. It is more modern than what perhaps we've seen in other Disney films in the past.
Yeah.
And I think for me, just the pressure came off very early on, and that was when we came up with the concept. And it seems like it would have been a no-brainer. Well, it has to be about wishing, but we had to go back to the storyboard, the drawing board, and pin up an image from each of our movies, and then look at on one bulletin board, and then look at the whole legacy, and then go, okay, these are incredible styles and incredible eras that they did, but there was a common thread of characters wishing on stars. And so we felt like it's got to be about wishing, and I think Walt was sort of whispering, if not yelling in our ears, that it has to be about wishing.
Well, off the back of that, did you ever think about making Star talk, or was that part of it from the get-go?
Star went through many iterations. Star came down to Earth, was a shapeshifter, could turn into animals and humans, and had several different voices, and it just became too much. It was like, it just wasn't right for the story. You want to take it from there?
Yeah, the Star for us, right, is a character that captured this cosmic force that represents hope, creativity, possibility. And when you all understand that feeling you have when you have an idea and you want to follow through, those don't have really clear words to it. So we thought, how fun would it be to give Asha, this character that she has to decipher, what are you here for? What do you mean? You know, and we also are inspired by baby pandas on YouTube, and baby pandas do whatever they want. You can't really control or understand.
Videos of baby pandas, just, you gotta Google it. You watch these poor things, and the poor trainers, keepers of the, there's like 3 or 4 baby pandas, and they're all just making a mess. They're all very sweet and adorable, but they're making a mess. That's where we got the inspiration from. Sorry.
Okay, I think we just have a few minutes left. Is there one last question?
Hello again, I have another question. What's the generational questions or message you want to convey with the film?
Well, I guess one of the things, it goes back to a theme that we had from the very beginning, and it works for all generations, is that there is no greater power in the universe than someone with a true wish in their heart.
Yeah, we want to celebrate that spark inside each and every one of us, right? That give you courage in times of doubts to keep going. And for the kids, that can be inspirational message. And for the adults, that can also speak to, like, if you have the forgotten dreams after you watch Wish, you walk out of the theater and you find this courage to pursue what you have had all along again.
Peter?
I think they summed it up.
All right, great. If there's no more questions, vous avez une dernière question? No? Okay. Oh yes, one more. Just keeping an eye.
To each and every one of you, which one of these songs is your favorite? What is your favorite song of the movie?
No.
It depends.
Which child is your favorite?
We'll put it this way, do you think one of them is going to be the breakout?
Oh boy, you can never tell.
That's up to the audience to embrace these songs, but talk about your favorites.
I think for me it's This Wish, mainly because it was the first song Julia wrote. She wrote that song even before we had a finished script, and it sort of embodied what this movie was going to be about.
All right, thank you so much to all 3 of you.
Peter gets to say his favorite?
Oh, sorry.
I want to say I'm a Star.
Oh.
Because it just embodies like the Disney magic at its finest for me. I just love it.
All right, fun.
I'm more villainous, obviously.
Fun.
So I love This Is the Thanks I Get.
Okay.
Okay, there we go.
That's great. Thank you so much.